If anything has taught us recently, it's to be ready. But how do you get ready when you don't know what to get ready for?
Right. So let's talk about this idea of being ready for the unexpected, maybe we should call it, or being ready for something interesting.
Maybe ready player one.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Join us today as we discuss being ready about being ready about being ready today on Curiosity Continuum. Hey everybody, this is Brian.
And this is Josh.
Welcome to Curiosity Continuum. We are a podcast and movement started by two lifelong friends whose mission is to guide you through a changing world by helping you to level up your contextual awareness and sharpen your collaboration and problem-solving skills. Our conversations explore, examine, and reframe practical topics that help you learn something new and apply what you already know in a new way.
If you find these conversations helpful, please hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app and rate us and leave a review so others can join the community. And you can, as always, find us on curiositycontinuum.com and our other social media accounts. Thanks for tuning in, and let's start the conversation.
All right, man. So
let's talk about it.
So
let's talk
ready,
about
set,
what
go.
what we're doing with this episode too, because so it's like,
okay,
if it sounds different to people, why we're doing it this way.
Yeah. And so what we're doing is Josh and I have a very consistent format by which we will assemble episodes. Right. And what we're doing, especially now, as we're going forward, is like we want to live what we talk about. And so we're actually testing Zoom for the first time. We've never had to use a Zoom meeting of any kind to be able to do what we do, but we are now. And so I'm actually in my car on mobile, but not driving around. I'm just sitting in my car. Just to have some like the solitude fortress going on here for audio quality.
Right.
It is a little cold, so the car is running. What we're trying to do is say, like, are we ready in case like one of us isn't by our computer and we want to record, or we want to have more guests on the show and they have a different setup. Are we ready actually to handle every scenario?
Right. So, and we think it's important to be ready and to be unexpected kind of thing. So I always think it's good to have 2 or 3 ways to record something or to do something that we really need to do and want to do. Because a lot of the like secret sauce of Brian and I doing this show is we have a scheduled meeting time. And if infrastructure like internet goes out or something happens where, we can't do that, how do we do it still? Because sometimes it's not conducive to either of our lives. And I'm sure you guys at home could, or wherever you're listening, can relate to this, to like reschedule things over and over. We both lead busy lives. So like everybody. And so I think it's important to figure out ways to get stuff done.
Yeah. I think for part of our what we always promise to you listeners is that we're publishing consistently. And I think especially after the events recently, people needed some consistency in their lives.
Right.
And so it's like what we wanted to really do is kind of have that consistent publishing thing. And now as we kind of enter a new phase, and people still need that, but what we're trying to do is say, like, how can we continue to do that even if maybe the delivery mechanisms were different?
Right. And
Josh,
I think
I'm getting an incoming phone call. Are you hearing that on your end?
No.
Okay, that's good. It's coming twice now, and I've been ignoring it. I'm like, what in the world? I think it's one of those. I don't think so. It's from Austin, Texas. And I don't really know
you're good
anybody
then.
from Austin, Texas. Unless it's somebody.
I don't hear. I'm not hearing it at all because I have it set on. I told you I have it set on high to cancel background.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'm only hearing your voice right now.
Oh, good. Okay, sweet. There we go. All right, coming back into the conversation.
Yeah, we'll probably edit that part out.
Exactly. I think one time Josh and I, or a couple other times in the podcast, we always say, plan the work or work the plan.
Right.
And it's true. But very quickly, if you talk to anybody who's been in the military, anybody who's been like on the ground doing things, nothing ever goes according to plan perfectly. And if it does, it's like everybody says, wow, how did that work? The readiness, you want like people who are defending the country. You want people who are in the field being able to work on things where things don't go right. How do you prepare for that? And that's a weird question, because like, well, how do you be ready to be ready? And that's really where, like, yeah, you have to back it up, and you're not going to get it 100%. You can get it close enough. And then you have to understand, like, okay, this is where I make compromises to say, like, I'd be more ready for this if this happened, because I'm presuming XYZ. Again, it goes to the contextual awareness of like who you are, or if you're caught in a situation with people that are skilled differently than you, like how can you actually make something work? And so the first thing, I think, Josh, do you want to talk about just even assessing a broad situation and not having the instruction manual? It's a blank page. So talk about like when you've done that, you've said like, okay, I don't have no idea, and you figure something out.
Right. So honestly, it always starts with what we've talked about is contextual awareness of the situation, knowing what we actually need, and then knowing what we want, because you have to know where you're going to get there, obviously. So I always like to think about, what do I want the end result to be? For this example, we'll use the recording of this episode. We want an end result where we have something we can record and edit and produce and put up as content. So how did we get there? And so we always have our one mechanism of recording. This is like what happens if that mechanism doesn't work. So I figure out different ways to do it. And I think we've figured out probably like 3 solid ways to record the show. And this is being the newest one, because it's honestly the most full featured one we use. And it's the most complicated, even though the resulting quality may not be, the audio quality may not be as exact as like we would like it, but it is serviceable enough. So I think that's what you have to you're going to make compromises on something to do something different. And it might be a good compromise, and it might end up being good in the long run, because, for example, like with this, we could bring new people on and off, and we can actually have more guests, which is what we want to do. And Brian and I both talk about that often, especially off air. We talk about, let's bring more people from our community on, and more people that we know. And so this is a way we're going to be able to do that way easier, I think.
And there's other podcasters that have done this, and this is kind of their flow. But for us, our flow initially, remember how this thing started? It was just 2 friends talking, and as we and we've brought in ideas from other friends that we've presented, even though we haven't said, now here's so and so to talk about something. Everything that Josh and I will discuss is something that we've absorbed from other parts of our life, and we'll bring it into kind of the continuum to talk about. So Josh, when you say compromises, I think of a company, let's say like, we'll take Amazon, for example.
Sure.
Amazon is like, man, like this is our brand promise. This is what we do. Like, you're a customer. We want to love on you. We want
make you happy.
Make
you happy. Yeah.
Make you happy. Yep. And you're going to buy a product, and it's going to arrive on your doorstep in 2 days. I mean, that's kind of their, from that portion of Amazon. There's so many different tendrils of Amazon in many different things. But for the one that people most understand, that's the one. Like, I go online, I shop for something, and it happens. Well, we saw how things compress when the world economy's locked down. We've seen it where different things happen. And so, like, how did this happen? Like, you couldn't get some things in 2 days or less. But what Amazon did is they reprioritized what people got sooner rather than later. And so people still felt that, like, man, Amazon's doing a really good job because they're prioritizing the necessities. They went through the same process of going, like, what do people need and what do they want? Like, people need, if it's like, go ahead, Josh.
No, it is a balancing act to give people what they need, maybe even if they don't know it. And that's the key here, is like doing what you need to do to get the end result, even if it means a compromise of some kind. And maybe it might not be the compromise you were expecting, but it's the one you need to do.
And it's something where I think people, if they see effort, that's a great thing. Like, I'll tell you what, Josh, there's companies I will go back to, not because they did everything perfect, but they made it right. It's like they like, we screwed this up and we own it and we're going to make it right. It's like, okay, like, perfect. And they say, this is how we're going to make it right. I'm like,
and I think that really talks to like the forgiving nature of people. If you're just honest with people in many respects of life, instead of trying to cover stuff up or hide things, I think that people notice that and say, look, everyone's human. We all make mistakes. We all can do better at things. And to acknowledge that, the humility of that is important. And I think people really do respect that from you,
So let's talk about the being ready portion of it. It's going to be kind of like assessing everything, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to also not make good the enemy of perfect. Like, this will not go necessarily according to your plan. And are you humble enough to be able to say, hey, like, here's what's really going on, or this is where we missed it? Are you willing to own where something didn't go quite right? And then are you willing to correct it? It's the effort portion. Josh, I've seen it, like, I'm training my children in this way. And they put effort in a lot of good things, but there are some gaping holes where they don't put in the effort that I would want them to necessarily.
It's just good enough, maybe.
Yeah, or minimally good enough. And I'm like, look, show up and try.
And
if
be
you
present.
try, be present and do it.
Yeah.
I said, if I see a try, I'm not going to penalize you ever. If I actually see like a genuine effort.
Right.
And that's where too, I'll take a genuine effort person to say, like, this person's teachable. This person is, they want to learn, they want to do better. Like, that's an honest effort. And those things together really help you be ready for something. It more than just understanding the answer you need to give. It's how you need to behave in a situation.
Right. So you want to wrap this back around to the idea of being ready in unexpected ways?
Yes. And Josh and I practice this in our own life. It's a variety of experiences.
Right.
Even in like certain disciplines. So I have a friend who's a plumber, longtime plumber in Franklin. And his dad actually was plumbing license number 1 when I found out.
Wow.
And then when his dad retired, that license passed to him. I mean, like literally license number 1. I mean, like that's as first in line as you get. And this Greg Woodard is my friend, and he's Franklin Heating and Plumbing. And plumbing and heating, he's Greg Woodard. You look at him. Basically, he has had a bigger size business. As he's gotten older, it's scaled back a little bit. But the thing that's been a hallmark for him is that his dad put him in the crappy situations. I mean, no pun intended, I guess, if you're talking about a plumber, sometimes those jokes do come your way. But his dad made him do everything from the very grunt work all the way up to the top. And so he understood everything worked. And you didn't find yourself skilled like Greg is unless he was put in the situations where if you hired somebody and they were trying to pass something off, you couldn't get past them. Right. It's like he understood. And it wasn't like he necessarily looked at the particular situation exactly, but he said, I've seen something like this before, and this is how it behaves based on his training, right? Based on his field experience, then based on the dynamics of people. It's like he can read a situation pretty quickly. He kind of knows how to go back and like, why does this always happen in this particular house? And in my particular house that I'm living in, he told me why certain things happen with the septic tank. It's because the house initially was supposed to have been set 40 feet further back, and they never adjusted where the septic tank was. So, and it's like, well, that would affect some things. He's like, yes, it would. And that kind of, going back to the foundational reason as to why, it's practiced in his everyday life again and again and again. And when you start to do that, no matter what you apply it to, those thinking skills, the education that you're getting from that, when I say education, not just going to a college or going to a high school, the education of learning in the real world will serve you in every situation in the real world, regardless of what it is.
Right. And that's important to remember that too. And that will help you to be ready for unexpected things and for things that you need to pivot for and you need to do things. So remember, always draw on your own experiences. Always know your contextual awareness of your situation. And I think that would be a great way to be ready to be ready.
Yes, indeed. And understand you're never going to expect when to be ready, always. If you were training for a marathon, that's one. Life happens, and you're not prepared for those things. But you have to be ready to engage in that situation. Josh, can I just take a personal moment here? So recently, one of our faithful listeners, who was also my stepdad, passed away. And it was a sudden one just because it came because of COVID. And that was a situation where that went very quickly. And you had to move in quickly into a situation where my mom who had also been sick and is recovering, and then all the different things that go along with that.
Right.
Those are situations that you find yourself in that you're not ready for, or you're not prepared for that particular thing to happen that way, but you have to be ready to engage in that. And we worked it through, and everything, has been landed well enough in this season. And now with Mom, she's entering a new season of her life, and I wasn't ready for that. She wasn't ready for that, but we're ready to face it together. And I think that part of it is having that wherewithal to go, okay, we're going to move forward and we're going to figure this out as we go. And there's a commitment that happens to working through the tough that will always carry you through and apply it again and again and again for life situations.
Yeah. And I think this is probably a great place to put a comma, huh, Brian?
Let's do it. Thanks, folks, for listening today. Until next time, this is Brian.
And this is Josh.
For Curiosity Continuum.